But what I was doing was introducing Lisa. She's back. We're all back together again. We're doing
Oh,
this
I'm
thing.
here. Okay, so
Yes, we're doing this thing, and
you guys,
we got monsoon. I was talking about monsoon and how
it's
it
bad.
it'll trick you, make you think that you got some rain and wind and all that. We'll get one wind that blows, and then it's dark, and we're like, okay, waiting for the rain, and I don't hear the rain. My mom says she heard some rain, but when I walked out this morning to leave the house, my car was filthy,
Oh,
and yeah, it was filthy, and I'm like, okay, well, what just happened? I missed the whole thing because I guess it wasn't enough to speak of, but it was just enough to get me dirty. And how many of you know that sometimes that's
mm,
what the enemy does to us?
yes.
He'll let the wind blow,
Yep.
and we know a
Mm-hmm.
storm is coming. You can feel it. You about to go through a storm,
Right.
and you expecting all this wind and rain and all of this stuff, and there may be some dust blowing, but because it's dark you can't really see the dust blowing,
Mm-hmm.
but it just seems so dark. You'll go through that period in your life, and then the next morning comes, the
Yeah.
sun is out, it's bright, but you just know that something happened because you
Mm-hmm.
can see the residue on your vehicle. So it was
Okay.
Yes.
just enough to get your vehicle dirty enough to let you identify that something happened.
Right.
But how
Mm.
many of you know that the wind may blow a little bit, and a little dust may come, but we can make it through that storm. See, that storm, I was in my safe haven in my house, so none of
Yeah.
it touched me. Nothing broke in my house. It didn't tear anything off. It was just enough. It got dark enough to let you know that something was coming. A
Mm.
lot of us go through this in our lives on a daily basis,
Yep.
and or even it may even be seasonal, where it seems like every day it's something else,
Right.
or you'll wake up and you feel in some kind of way, and throughout the day, you may be quiet, keep to yourself, whatever it is you do when you feel in some kind of that what
Mm-hmm.
kind of way. We all have our moments when we're feeling some kind of way.
That's
But
right.
how many of you know that God is always our ark of safety? Just
Yep.
like your house is your ark of safety, sometimes our cars are our ark of safety. And I don't mean we're living in our car, but there are some people who may have to do that in whatever
Yeah.
season they are. But they do whatever it takes to make sure they're in a safe, confined area so the storms don't directly impact them.
Amen.
So while we're waiting to just get this stuff going, I'm assuming and I hope we're all back
We're
and
all back.
everything. Okay, we're all good. I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to give you all a little encouragement. So, though the winds may blow,
Mm,
and you may know that something happened because you see the residue, you
right.
know with your car. And as I'm driving down the street, I noticed you could tell everyone who was a part of the storm. See, so what that tells me is that when there's a storm going on in my
Mm-hmm.
life, the enemy wants to make us feel like it's just us.
Right.
But
Yes.
do you believe that there are other people going through things? They may not be going through the same storm.
Mhm.
They may live in another part of town where the wind just might have blown a little bit more over here or a little less over there. They might have had a
Yeah.
few more drops in one
Yeah.
place or the other. But as we're driving down the street, I could tell those who had their vehicles outside, like mine, and
Mm-hmm.
those who went through a part of the storm, because you could see the dust on their vehicles, you could see the little drops on their vehicles.
Right.
But I'm here to tell you that those cars were still moving. We
Yes.
were all going to our destinations. So
Yeah.
that tells me your storm does not have to stop you from
That's right.
moving forward in the things of God in your life. So I just wanted to encourage you. I don't know where that came from. It just came from the Holy Ghost, just right off. Yeah, I can preach about anything, of course.
That was
That's
sweet.
I take a biscuit and preach about a biscuit if that's what I got to do to encourage the people of God. Because we just have to learn how when lemons come, you make lemonade. It's up to you how sweet or how tart you want it to be. But at the end of the day, you take what you have and use it as a springboard to what you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to stay stuck in what we see in the natural. And truthfully, that's what my girl Lisa's going to talk about tonight. She's going to talk about what the enemy thought he was going to use to literally kill her.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. Her title tonight
Mm.
is Purpose to Live. So Lisa,
Yes.
why won't you share a little bit about how things began in your life
Wow.
with the people? Share a little bit about that.
My
Oh, my
life
cousin
began.
Derek is on all the way from Minneapolis. Hi, Derek.
Well, my life began with a 14-year-old mother, young lady who ended up pregnant by a 19-year-old. And along trying to move past it and getting further in her pregnancy, she decided she didn't want to have the baby. So what she did was she would try to fall on her stomach. She would try to abort this baby, but the baby wasn't going anywhere. So upon delivery, the baby was born on a Sunday.
Wow.
Baby's born on a Sunday, brought the baby home, and again, she decided this baby isn't for me, so she threw the baby away. And when literally meaning throw away, mean throw in a trash can receptacle. Again, by this time, this young lady is 15 years old with a brand new baby. What's the mindset of a 15-year-old with a brand new baby? It's
Wow.
So baby was found, brought back to the mother. The mother decided she's going to go and stay with a family member in Wichita Falls, Texas. I'm a Texas girl.
Woohoo.
All right, girl. My
but when
husband
she
a
got to
Texas
Wichita
man.
Falls, she was without her child.
Hmm.
So, and this baby was probably just maybe a week old. So this is what we kind of say, the things that we sweep under the carpet, we don't want anyone to know about. It was a secret known within that community, that African American community, that this child was missing. So we had two sides of a family looking for a newborn baby. There were some children playing in a railroad track behind some projects called Green Fair. And they said they kept hearing a baby crying. And it had been days gone by in May, the month of May. So they finally looked and investigated and found a baby in a dresser drawer in an empty apartment facing the train tracks. When they found this baby, beautiful little girl, she was covered in sores. She had been eating her feces, so her system had been poisoned, and from 5 pounds, she was below 5 pounds. And that baby happened to be me.
Wow.
So here it is, that a wonderful time of being pregnant and bonding with your child, that child was unable to bond with the mother. So
Wow.
what happens when a child doesn't bond? Insecurities that develop.
Mm-hmm.
But the miracle in it all is that child survived. How does a newborn baby survive? But God.
Wow.
How does a newborn
But God.
baby eat their feces? But God. How does a newborn baby survive in an empty building in the month of May for nights? But God.
4 nights.
For nights, a newborn baby. And this is something that I not only felt that there was something growing up, but I dreamed this. So in my family as a little girl, I would often say, oh, I had this dream of this baby, you know, sitting in this dresser drawer looking, there's a train track, and everyone would freeze. So you know how you walk into a room and you say, well, wait a minute, how is it that everybody's looking at me like there's something I should know or I should not know? So meanwhile, as I went through that process, my birth mother was out of the picture. My mother's side and my father's side were both fighting for custody on who's going to raise this baby. But meanwhile, I have an awesome aunt who took care of me. She took me in her bosom. She raised me as her own. She nurtured me as much as she could. But again, the trauma had already happened. Because when you don't lay that child on your chest and you don't give it the nurturing that it needs, there's a disconnection that starts to happen. I know, Deshaun, you would know. I mean, both of you,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with children that are either seeking counseling or in the
Hmm.
system.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize the full story of it because as a child, I was always happy-go-lucky, and I thought, man, I'm lucky. I got three mamas. I have my grandmama, I have my birth mama, and
Hmm.
I have my mama that's raising me. A child fully doesn't know what's going on, but I knew
Hmm.
that I loved. I loved like you wouldn't believe, but I also felt separation anxiety the minute someone left my life. I cried. I didn't know
Oh.
how to react. I overclung, clung to people.
Hmm.
But my grandmother always prayed. And I wonder why she prays so much for me. I've always seen her. She, baby, come on in here. She greased me down with the blessed oil because she knew and she saw what God had for me. And she believed
Hmm.
that. And she always said, baby, there's purpose over your life. There's something you need to be doing. You're going to come to church. You're going to sit on the front row. But as a four-year-old, you don't understand those things. But when God said that I'll never leave you nor forsake you, I truly, truly have felt that all through my life. But it took me as being an adult to realize it. And I want to just read something that I wrote that really covers my walk. And
Hmm.
this I wrote years, probably about 10, 15 years ago. And it's just how I felt through the healing process. And it's called Purpose to Live. So, Pastor Andre, when you said, what is this you're going to be talking about? Purpose to Live. I was avoiding it, but God kept saying, no, there's a time for it, and it's now.
Hmm.
And it says, rejected at birth, expected to die, I was purposed to live. Yearning to be loved, abandoned in fear, I was purposed to live. To be seen and yet not seen, I was purposed to live. Words of pain because of your shame, I am purposed to live. Train tracks and dirty window panes, purpose to live. One love forbidden, loved by many, purpose to live. Weak and
Wow.
starved, bruised in pain, I'm purposed to live. Place of poverty, surrounded but yet protected, purpose to live. Room of emptiness, so lonely and dark, I am purpose to live. Silent tears in the darkness cries
Wow.
in the light. I am purpose to live. Light shining sounds of life, purpose to live. Protector, provider, provision, peace, purpose to live. Advocate, healer, guide, teacher, restore, purpose to live. Counselor, renewer, truth, light, and a way. He is and I am purpose to live. That defined my walk.
Oh
I was
Mm.
man.
placed in a room of emptiness. I was lonely, but yet I was still purposed to live. Where I was seeking the love of one person, I was provided in my life the love of many.
Wow.
Woo, Jesus.
This is
Yes,
so
it is.
powerful.
Yes,
Wow.
it
Oh,
is.
ah,
yes. Oh,
so,
we got 5 minutes
God.
before break. Uh,
Okay.
I.
So growing up, yearning to be loved, I was abandoned in fear. So fear
Hmm.
became my worst adversary, my enemy. Fear, that's what I survived on because that's what I was
Hmm.
given. So we're going to talk about the walk and how I overcame a lot of that fear and also moved towards healing.
Hmm.
But as it stated, God purposed me to live. And there were many times where I should have died at the hands of man, but God said, you
Hmm.
shall live. Should have died in car
Hmm.
accidents, but God said I should live. Should
Mm-hmm.
have died when a gun was pointed at my head. I shall live. And this all starts because of the choices that we make, because of the
Hmm.
insecurities that we have that's developed from the time that we were a child. And we're not told the truth in order to allow us to heal. So, what do? We
Yeah.
go seeking what we didn't receive.
See, oh
And
wow.
so,
See, Kim and I have talked about this. Oh,
Um,
yes.
yes,
About
yes, yes.
the importance of truth.
yes, yeah, and it's,
And if
ooh,
you don't know, I mean, I'm just mesmerized. I know you told this testimony at church in our women's group, but I don't remember you saying the part about you dreaming about it. You
Yes.
may have said it,
Mm.
but I honestly, well, you only had 10 minutes, so you probably didn't.
Yeah.
But this this thing about dreaming about stuff is just amazing because people don't know the ability that our mind
Yes.
Mhm.
has. The mind is so powerful. Even things that we are, you can be a 2-year old, and and people don't understand. A 1-year old will remember trauma.
Right.
It's forever grained in your mind, or whatever you want to call it. But that child will struggle with something. And I talked about, we only got like 3 minutes. I hope it's 3 minutes before a commercial break. But I talked about how we learn what rejection is. I talked about this weeks ago. It happens from the first time you experience it, and your
Mhm.
reaction to it, it's like it becomes a pathway.
Right.
So every time you experience something that's familiar to that, you respond, or I'm sorry, you react the same way.
Right.
And what we have to do is reteach ourselves on how to respond versus reacting. Because what reacting is, you're going to keep doing the same thing every time. But when we learn
Mhm.
to respond, we do things a little differently. And that'll shape that pathway. It'll redirect it in a different way. I just find that to be so phenomenal, that you were reading about something that, I mean, you were dreaming about something that happened to you
Mhm.
in your infancy
Yes.
at birth.
Yes.
You obviously, there's no way you could have known that any of that happened,
No.
but yet you were dreaming about it. And I just think that, I mean, wow. I mean, that to me, of everything you said thus far, that like hits me like with a ton of bricks, like bam.
Mhm.
Because it makes me think about stuff that I've thought about since I was a child. And I'm like, well, where did that come from? Obviously, I didn't see it with my natural eye, but I would dream, I'd have rerun dreams.
Right.
And it's just like,
Mhm.
okay, well, why do I keep dreaming this? Where is this coming from? And it just makes you wonder.
Mhm.
But we'll have to bring this back after the break. And, we may have to have you on for a part two, because this is so powerful
Mhm.
that I don't think this can be addressed just tonight. I honestly don't. So I hope you're free next week, because I hadn't booked anybody. And I kept saying I was going to, and I kept wondering, why can I book anybody? Now I know why. So I hope you can make this happen again for part two next week. Because this is so rich.
Mhm.
Rejection is such a powerful
Yes, it is.
emotion,
Mhm.
and it's been ruining women's lives for
Yep.
years and years and years and years.
Mhm.
And we need to break the cycle
That's
now.
right. Right. Mhm.
Now. So for those
Yeah.
of you who are on, make sure you don't click off. Stay on. Do whatever you got to do to be on for the second half. Y'all already know what song you're gonna listen to. It's gonna be testimony. I know y'all tired of it every week, but I
No.
promise you, one of these days there's gonna be something different, and y'all gonna be shocked. I'm not gonna even tell y'all. Y'all just gonna be shocked. But I'll see you guys back in a few minutes. Don't I'm gonna say, don't hang up. Stay on.
Stay
Don't turn
there.
the channel. Yeah, stay on, because this is getting gooder and gooder every time we talk.
Gooder.
So I'll see you guys after the break. Stay on now. Stay on.
Have you ever wanted to host your own inspirational radio show? Have you been called to inspire and spread God's word? Please contact Alicia Ray for more info.
This song's dedicated
To everyone,
to everyone who made it.
yeah,
Any test or trial,
hopeless situation.
hopeless situation. Now you have a story.
The angels can't sing.
Just can't sing in glory.
You're redeemed.
You're redeemed from the hand of the enemy.
Yeah. Here we go.
Whether it's in the courtroom, fighting in the boardroom, trying to feed your family, or kicked out underneath you.
God's able.
God is more than able. He can turn the table.
forward. Hey,
The doctors can't explain it.
some way, somehow.
Somehow you made it.
Never stop.
Never stop believing.
Now you're walking.
Walking in your healing.
Everything ain't perfect.
Things not perfect, but you don't look like what you've been through.
Now you can tell somebody.
Now you can tell somebody if you didn't
Yeah, yeah.
for you. Can I get a witness?
Oh, just one more.
Need one more
The
witness.
God still working. Open the door. He's still making ways.
Still making ways.
Yeah.
Others said that there ain't no way.
If you know this is true,
Do what
I get up and say, ain't nobody,
ain't nobody tell it like me.
can't nobody,
Ain't nobody say it like me.
you don't know the,
You don't know the story like me.
yeah.
It's my testimony. Ain't nobody praise it like me. Nobody praise it for
You
me.
give me the victory.
Give me the victory.
Oh,
Testimony.
say it's mine.
It's mine.
It's mine.
It's my testimony.
Say, I got a
testimony.
say it's mine. It's mine.
My testimony.
I got a
testimony.
Can I get a witness? Just need one more. Just need one more. Opening doors. Come on. You still making ways when others say that there ain't no way. And if you know this is true, I get up and say,
Nobody tell it like me. Ain't nobody say it like me. You don't know the story like me. It's my testimony. Ain't nobody praise him like me. Ain't nobody praise him for me. He gave me the victory. Now I got a testimony.
Unprecedented times calls for unprecedented measures. Be the best in these virtual times.
Get a college accredited certification as a digital media technician.
where you can learn technical podcast, radio board up,
Live stream remote, video editing
Or record your next hit song.
taught
at the Academy of
Uni ETV and radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second half. We've got Lisa Allen. She's our special guest tonight. I want to welcome you all back. We got Kim, my trustee. Look at that. Look at her. She being real spicy tonight. I may have to roll her back. I don't know what Kim might have going on. But I just want to welcome you all back to the second half of the show. Before the break, we were talking and Lisa was sharing her testimony. I'll just recap real quick. She said that her mom had her. She hid her in a drawer in an empty apartment complex. And if it wasn't for the fact that some kids were playing around and they heard a baby crying, I'm not sure. Did you say how many days? Do you know how many days it was?
How many days, yeah.
Yeah, but she survived off of her own feces as an infant, which that in itself is remarkable. This whole testimony is just crazy. So if you guys missed the first half, I would suggest that after the show, you go back and watch the first half, because she wrote a poem, which I know it's going to be a book, called Purpose to Live. And yeah, I know it's going to be a book. And it's going to be a powerful, and actually, I see it even more than that. I see a whole TV show, truthfully. I really do. I see God doing way more than you probably even imagine with this, and perfect timing, because obviously God's timing is always perfect. And this is the season for you to share this, because people are feeling separated from family. They're feeling they're challenged with everything that's going on. And this whole COVID thing has been going on now for months, and people are tired. And people are tired of being confined in their homes. They're tired of being hidden behind their masks. They're tired of everything. And we're just feeling disconnected. So I think this is perfect opportunity. So if you could just share a little bit about how you went from dreaming about it to your grandma praying and then moving forward.
Well, I'm gonna take it back just a little bit. With being in that room, there is no way, and from the sores and eating the feces, and I don't know if people remember back then when you can't stomach things, we didn't have all this Enfamil special formula. What they did is I had to be on goat's milk. And when you are on a special income, it was very hard to come by because of the massive system poisoning and also, healing from the source. So to have a baby, have to deal with that, that's an expense a household couldn't afford. So, and not only did we make it through that, we made it through further things so that I can stay healthy and live. So, but the way that I stopped the dreams, I had those dreams for years. And when I mean years, I was in my adulthood, and I happened to be taking care of my grandmother. It was Desert Storm. I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, and I had my oldest daughter. And I went to my grandmother's house to stay with her. And I didn't know that her cancer was back. And I thought I was coming to just rest because I was pregnant. But God had always moved in my life in the way that I'm able to help people. And my heart just goes out to him. So when I saw her and she didn't look the same, I knew there was something. So I just go into overdrive. And that's part of that abandonment. That's part of that clinginess, is when you see something wrong, you just go right in. And it's not about you. Your healing and what you're going through is not important. It's everyone else. So while she was having her night dream, she would go back and remember, where she was running through her field, and she said, "I want him to tell you about the baby." And I'm like, "Well, Granny, who are you talking about?" I'm there with my uncle. So there's two of us, and I'm looking at him, and his face is, he's darker than I am, and it's Snow White. And she said, "Baby, they have to tell you about the baby." And I'm just like, "Well, who is she talking about?" And then she'll go back to sleep. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Lord, why is she telling me about a baby? I don't know what she's talking about." And she woke up and she looked at me and she said, "That baby's you. Have them tell you about the baby." So I looked over at my uncle and I said, "What is she talking about?" And he just looked at me plainly and he told me, he said, "You know how you have your dreams, and you said that you saw this baby in this room. He said that baby is you." And I tell you, the feeling I had as an adult, I was floored. I'm pregnant. I was nauseous, but also what I felt is some emotions that I had kept walled up. Anger came out. I felt like, everyone kept things from me, and I'm an adult. So I had all of these mixed emotions. And I'm wondering, well, why isn't they didn't tell me? Because I'm thinking of everything I went through, that if you would have told me about this, then maybe I wouldn't have went through some of these things. But I know God is a God of order. And when she did say that, and my uncle told me, it released those dreams from me. I no longer had those dreams because everything was answered. He told me about the baby. That was part of my healing process. So because in the back of my mind when I'm sleeping, I'm always seeing this baby, wondering, okay, well, I see this room. And I even went as far as going back to Green Fair, and I found the room. They had remodeled, but I knew right where that apartment was. It was the last apartment by the train tracks. And I felt like my life had been given back to me. I felt like that was part of an answer to a question that I needed. And it just moved me and progressed me more towards healing. But I had to address some other feelings too, because having to find out at a young age some of the things that I experienced with my mother and my father, it had me kind of behind walls. I didn't trust because I felt like if I let you in, you're going to leave me, and when you leave, you're going to hurt me. So what I
Yeah.
did is I kept the walls going. I kept bricks all around me. I was safe. I felt like I was back in that dresser drawer. I was protected. No harm came to me while I was in that dresser drawer. But when I come outside of that dresser drawer, reality hits. Abandonment, fear. I have no voice. There's a secret that I don't know about. You feel it as a child, like you are incomplete, but you don't know how to complete yourself. So what I had to do along the way is be my best friend. And I often tell my kids, who's your best friend? God, your mama, your daddy, and you. Those are your best friends. But I literally had to be my best friend because I couldn't tell everybody about this. Because how many people can you tell? I have 2 mamas, 2 daddies. I was left in a dresser drawer. My families were fighting over me. I have aunties that love me, but then I have other relatives I don't know because my identity is shifted. I have a father who adopted me. He was in the Air Force. He adopted me. I mean, that was the best feeling in the world. My life transitioned. So when God said, I'll never leave you or forsake you, he said, I'll provide for you. He did. And I often tell people, I said, before we were born, while we were formed in our mother's womb, God put in our backpack, which is us, everything we need to survive on the journey that he has for us. And I believe everything that I needed to survive was in my backpack, but I didn't know some of the tools that were in there because I was so scared to reach in there and find out what they were. I was scared to say, how do I use this? I didn't know who to talk to or mentor me. So what I did is I put up a facade. I was mean. High school, I was mean. I didn't let no one get
I can't picture that.
I was
Not
always
Lisa.
an overachiever. Oh yeah, I was mean.
Yeah. Overachieving. Yeah. That's because that happens
Yes.
because you want people to accept you. So you
Right.
overdo everything. It has to be perfect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Then
get that.
I would lose my voice. If you came at me, I'm a fight. But then yet if it's someone that I really care for and you come and you say, well, what happened here? What happened there? I shut down because I lost my identity. I lost my voice. But yet on the outside, I'm strong. I got it. I can, finish this. I'm excelling in my grades. I'm running track. I'm the social butterfly. But inside, I was lost, broken, didn't know who I was, yearning for someone, but yet scared to reach out and show the real me so that I can truly be loved and received. My mother, my father that raised me, my mom, they are phenomenal. But there's just some things that you're still missing that
Yeah.
they can't give
I
you.
totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
So it was a rough time. And what I did is I told myself what I wouldn't do. Well, that's wrong. I'm never going to get pregnant at 15, 16. I'm not getting married until I'm not having kids till I get married. I put all these things, I put more pressure on me instead of living life. And what happens when we do that? We take the ball out of God's hands and we put it in our hands. And guess what? Your road that should have been one way is going to be a different way. So you're going to experience some different things in your life. But yet everything that I did, if I failed, I got back up and I said, I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
I'm going to accelerate my mind. I'm going to read. I'm going to be my own therapist. I'm getting self-help books. But sometimes you need to put down a book and let somebody really reach in and help you.
Yeah.
And I did do that, but I had to realize what it was that I was dealing with. Why I was reacting the way that I was reacting. Why was I so scared of being left alone?
Wow.
Well, it stems back to when you don't deal with the root, the weeds are going to continue to come.
Oh, yeah, they do. They grow. What does the word talk about that? Even if you just look, I mean, I know those of you all who've been in Phoenix your whole life, you may not know what grass is because there's just not a lot of grass around. Maybe in the little green, areas in our neighborhoods, but weeds, and grass will grow together. And even with all of that watering, and you would think, oh, it's just going to be healthy. Well, yeah, you'll see a lot of healthiness, but those weeds they'll pop up and they're relentless.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, you move into a home, we have rocks because where I live, I like rocks because they less maintenance. Grass is beautiful, and I do miss grass at times, but the maintenance that goes along with the beautiful grass is enormous, especially here in the desert. But what amazes me is how weeds in the desert will grow with no rain. I mean, literally, or if it rains one day, weeds pop up in your yard the next day, and you're like, they are relentless. They will push through that grass. And I'm just like, how in the world is it that a weed can grow so big overnight?
Oh, yeah.
Just from a few drops of rain? Or don't let someone's water, get everywhere. And then you got weeds all over your yard. And you just kind of like, what in the world? How is this possible? Well, it's no different than what goes on in our lives on the inside. Those things that we struggle with, those things that we suppress, those things we don't want people to know about. If we don't deal with them, they keep manifesting, and they will grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And it doesn't matter that you want the rocks to hide them or you want the grass to hide them. They will grow tall.
They will.
Some of the things that we love and we think are so beautiful, and I can't think of the name of it, but I want to say a dandelion.
Oh, yeah.
Is a weed.
But
Yeah,
it's a weed.
it's a weed. There's some beautiful weeds that will look like, they grow and they bloom like flowers, and only to find out that it's just as beautiful as those flowers. But that doesn't mean that we want to have them both growing at the same time, because weeds, when I'm pulling weeds, if you accident, it's sticky. It doesn't feel right on your hand. And sometimes that whatever that substance is on the inside of the weed, it'll get all over your hands and it feels nasty. That tells me it's not something that's supposed to be there. Right. And when you pull it, if you don't pull it just right, some of them will even like almost cut you. So you need gloves on. So there's a reason for things, and I appreciate your willingness to be open and candid about this, because so many children, and I really wish, especially those who may have been adopted or been in foster care, I really wish they could hear this, because it's hard when you don't know where your identity is. Granted, I have my mom and my dad. My mom, took care of me, but I didn't grow up with my dad in my life every day. So I don't know that part of my family. And so if I do go to a family event, I don't necessarily feel like I belong there, because everyone has grown up with everyone. And we live right in the same town, but I didn't grow up with that side of my family. And because I didn't, I don't know them that way. Right. So if I go to something, and it's funny because everyone knows who I am, but I don't know who they are. And it almost makes you wonder sometimes. I have to really work at knowing that I belong here. I have to work at that to recognize that this is where I belong, because he's my dad as well as he's my siblings' dad. And this is my family just like it's their family. And it's interesting when everyone knows. It makes you wonder, well, how is it that you know so much about me and yet I have no idea who you are? And I have to turn those old tapes off, because if I don't do that, then the constant feeling rejected and all of those things, I'll be walking that through every day of my life. And I refuse to live that way. That's right. Yeah. And it sounds like that's the decision that you made. You decided you weren't going to live your life like that. Once you found out what was missing, that opened the door for you to investigate all of those things. And when we come back next week, I'd like for you to take that further and how you got from that place in your life to where you are now. I can see Kim sitting here on her hands, rocking back and forth.
No, that's because
her
somebody's
brain
talking
is just,
to me too. Somebody's talking to me.
Oh, is that Gus?
Yes.
That
so
Gus?
when I was going to
Hi,
say, I like
Gus.
when everybody said hello. I like what Lisa was saying about the root, because when we were talking about referencing the weed and how you was talking about it with sticky stuff and everything, going back to that root would require us going back to it, no matter how pretty it looks, like Pastor Dre was saying, digging it out. We could cut it, but when that rain or when that sun comes along again, it'll sprout back up. And no matter how pretty your grass look, how suited and booted you look, if that weed is there, that I'm worthless, I'm not this, nobody wants me, or that rejection that we was talking about, that weed will stand strong every time. We do have to go back to the root.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was always fortunate. My parents made sure in the summers I went back home to Texas. And when I went back home to Texas, I made a point. I'm going to look in the telephone book. I'm going to find my daddy, I'm in town. I go see my grandmother, Ella Mae. I go see the key people, my Aunt Jackie and my Aunt Fat Fat. I go see them because seeing them made me feel.
You have an Aunt Fat Fat.
Yeah. My aunt, Lord, Aunt Marion.
She gonna get you. I had an Aunt Marion also.
So those were the people that kept me grounded, but being raised military, you didn't always get to come back home. You transferred, you were moving. So you always felt like you were the outsider. And to come home, and I had those key core people, my Uncle Ronnie, he was always there to receive me, but I still felt that emptiness of where do I really belong? I knew who everyone is, but how do I heal that disconnected piece of me? So
that's a challenging, that part is a challenging piece, because healing is really a choice.
Yeah, it is.
And that's not something that we teach in the body very much. As my husband's sneaking out the door, we don't take in well when people are still broken. That's not something, what we really just like to wipe it away. People come to the body of Christ, and what we want to do is just they come in the door, and we want to wipe away everything that they've ever gone through. And we don't want them to talk about it. We don't want them to have challenges. We don't want them, in essence, we don't want them to come and it's okay to be not okay. That's not how the body of Christ, at least in the church I've grown up in, and the one, the way we think about stuff now, because we'll even say, oh, you're not in faith if you're still struggling with that. If you love God, you shouldn't be worried about that anymore. But that is not the real world. It's just not. And we wonder why people are constantly going around the mulberry bush. And every 6 months, we're going through the same thing. And you having to be delivered every 6 months. Well, the truth is, you haven't been delivered in the first place. True deliverance comes with first acceptance. It doesn't mean that you're responsible. No, but then there's some things that like you said, we make decisions. We are in control of our destiny. But we don't want to deal with all the little things along the way, because like you said, you don't want to take the chance of having to deal with the pain associated with it. Or what if they don't like me? I don't want to, because I know whatever I've taught myself that rejection feels like. I don't want to deal with that feeling again, because it's painful. So I don't want to deal with that, because then I have to get used to being okay with me.
Right.
And that is probably one of the biggest challenges we women have, because we have worked so hard at being liked or being loved or whatever you want to call it, or even being accepted. I got 3 minutes, Lord Jesus. Being accepted, that when the time comes for us to accept who we really are, we can't do it. We don't want to walk through whatever we have to get to the place where I love me, whether someone else chooses me or not. I choose me, and I'm okay with me. I had to get there. That's why I can speak about it, because that's been my life. I'm good with Drea. I'm okay with Drea, but it's taken me a long time to get to this place. And gosh.
But you also have to know who you are. And that's the thing, is you have to go on that journey and find out who you are, and that means treading through the ugly, murky waters. And I often say, you go through life and you think, okay, I dropped this mirror. Okay, the mirror dropped on the ground. I'm picking up these little pieces. But you can come years later and cross the same floor that you picked up those pieces, and that slither gets you, and it will hurt you like you've never felt any pain.
Ooh,
and
girl.
and I tell you, God did that for me. And I tell you, I thought I was healed. I'm like, I'm good. But when that slither comes,
You know what? Can you hold that till next week so we can talk about the broken? Can we talk? Yeah, because I actually have something that I've written about being broken that I want to share. And I know that's going to open up a whole another thing. Glass has the property, I think it's called, I have to look it up. I know it's something start with a B, and I can see it, but my mind won't let me say it right now. Y'all keep praying for me. This chemo brain, I will be completely healed from that in Jesus' name. But the manifestation is going to come, and I will be able to speak my words clearly. Yes. Next week, we're going to have Lisa. I decided we're having Lisa next week. I hope Lisa's available. Hopefully she can make it happen. We got to stop tonight. This has been so wonderful. Real quick, praise.FM radio is the place to be. We're here every Tuesday night at 7:30. Dr. Lady Rain, she's a wonderful producer. If you want to do a show, please reach out to her. If you want to sponsor, reach out to her. We're on every social media platform you could think of, including Periscope, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, we're there. Obviously, you know about Facebook because here we are. Snapchat, I'm saying every one of them, whether we there or not, if we there today, we will be there. And so don't forget, Tuesdays at 7:30, there are other shows on the platform. Please support the other shows on our platform. We want everybody to have maximum viewership and participation. See, I'm not just about me. I'm about everybody's program on here. One soar, we all soar. That's what we're doing. And I just want to tell you guys, Lisa will be with us for part 2 next week. I just know God's going to blow it up. We're not going to have no technical difficulties. Everything is going to work 100% fine. So tell your friends, be prepared for next week. Love you all and see you next week. Thank you, Kim. As usual, thank you, Lisa. Write down all your ideas, your questions you want to ask. Email me, text me, and I'll make sure we get them answered. Love you all.
Love you.
You are tuned in to that praisey station, praise.fm, where we get our praise on. 24 hours, 7 days a week.